Hey guys, I'm Andrew, and this here is the latest addition to our Mevo kit. Now, one area of Mevo that we've been hoping to improve is the quality of recorded sound. And if you're doing live interviews, particularly group interviews, debates, panel discussions, what have you, you're going to want to have total control over the quality of the microphone and sound that each interviewee has. So, for that, we've added a pack of 4 lavalier mics and a little audio mixer to route all 4 mics, control their signal, and feed them into the iPad from which you run the Mevo app. So, this may seem a little bit daunting to set up at first, because it involves a lot of new pieces, and strange for this kind of technology, a lot of wires. But the setup is actually pretty straightforward itself. It basically involves getting out the microphones, connecting them to something that will balance them, and route them into the iPad. And I'm going to take you through each part of that process, step by step, piece by piece of equipment, point A to point B. So, let's start by taking out our lav mic. Now these Rode lav mics come with clips, so you can apply them to whoever needs to wear them. And they also, each of them also come with a little extension cable. I think it goes up to about 20 feet. And yes, this would probably come in handy. So we're going to start with those. And we are going to connect them to our audio mixer. Now this little mini mixer here comes from Marshall. And as you can see, it can connect up to 4 lavalier mics. Each one has its own gain knob that you're going to adjust. It runs on 2 AA batteries, so you can power it on back here. And over here is the line out, and that's what we're going to be connecting to the rest of the setup here. So, with that said, let's put in an extension cable for the sake of thoroughness, and put in a microphone, and let's say that we've done the same for the other mics and connected them to each of these slots. So the next thing that we need to do is run all 4 mics into a setup that will both carry the signal into the iPad and allow you to listen from the iPad even though the headphone jack is now being used. So to do that, we're going to use this, the iRig 2. And as you can see right here, there's a little guitar icon on the left. That's because we're going to plug in our little 1/4-inch connector from the mixer. It's something that you usually see when you're plugging an instrument into an amp, which is why you have the guitar signal there. And the headphones will go into this headphone jack. So, in order to connect these 2 pieces together, we're going to use this cable, which has both the 1/4-inch and the whatever the term you want to use for this kind of headphone jack cable. So we'll plug this into the guitar icon and plug the other end into this side of the mixer where it says line out, and I've added a little label here that says to iRig. So we'll hook that up, and we'll hook this end into the headphone jack of our iPad. Oh, and by the way, the Marshall mixer also has a USB power outlet here, so you can plug that in. Okay, so that's the basic setup. Now that you've got it plugged in, what you're going to want to do is to do a sound check for each person who's wearing a lavalier. Now, if you haven't done a sound check before, a couple of things you'll want to keep in mind. First of all, our main source of balancing the mics is going to be here on the mixer, each of the 4 gain knobs. I would suggest starting out with having each of them set to about medium. You can see the little white bar here pointed up at the middle mark. One thing you don't want to do, though, is to turn them all the way up, because not only that cause a lot of distortion, but you could damage the receiver. So set each of the knobs to medium. There's an output volume knob here, which I'm also going to set to around the middle. And there's also a gain dial here on the iRig 2, which I'm going to keep it around, again, also medium level. Basically, the only things that I would recommend adjusting are the gain knobs on the mixer, and in the Mevo app, adjust the volume control on the app. Now going over to the app, we're going to open the audio mixer here. That's represented by that little microphone icon at the bottom of the screen. Now the audio mixer is set by default to Mevo, which means that the microphone that it's picking up is the one built into the Mevo device. So what we want to do is set it to iPad, which means it will take audio from what we've input into the iPad. You'll see at the top there it says using iPad 8-inch mic input, and that is what we've plugged into the iPad. And you're ready to start testing, and you can judge how you're doing by what you hear in your headphones and those audio levels there on the bottom right corner. And you can make the final adjustments here on the little slider. A couple of other things I want to suggest. When you're testing each microphone, first of all, wait until the person that is using it has it clipped and it's fully set up in the right spot. And second of all, I would definitely say do not test the mics by tapping on them to see if they work. Or rubbing them against something or something. Tapping isn't particularly good for the mic, nor is it good for the sound receiver. But more importantly, you don't want to do it for the same reason that you actually don't want to have the person say test 1 2, check 1 2 3, because just testing to see if the microphone is picking up sound is not enough to determine if the levels are set correctly. A person could say test 1 2 3 at any level. That doesn't mean that the microphone is adjusted properly for when they're talking in their normal voice or raising their voice or answering interview questions. What you want them to do is to tell them to speak or answer a question or recite something at exactly the same tone and volume that they would be using in a conversation like this. So that's how you want to conduct a sound check. And like I said before, when you're listening for your sound check, you want to make sure that the headphones you're using to listen to playback are plugged into the iRig 2, not into the Mevo audio mixer. The reason being that the audio mixer picks up directly what the microphone is picking up, but the iRig 2 picks up exactly what the iPad is hearing. And in order to make sure that the Mevo is picking up the microphone feed properly and that it's working well within the system and the app, you want to hear what Mevo is hearing, not what the audio mixer is hearing. Now, since Mevo has a little bit of a lag or delay, you'll probably hear a delay of a couple of seconds between when you say something and when you hear it played back in the iRig 2, but it's still your best indicator of how you're doing on sound check before you start recording live. And that takes care of the basics. If you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to drop us a line. And we look forward to seeing what you come up with on the Mevo kit and our new audio mixer.